Well, everyone introduces my guest by his Wikipedia biography. It always reads the same way. Billionaire entrepreneur, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, and investor on Shark Tank. I'm going to add one more to that, which I think is as important as any of those three, which is founder of AudioNet, which is such a key part of how we got to the streaming world that we're now enjoying today, Mark. I mean, here we are with a couple of clicks, we're doing a video conference, but there was a time when even audio was hard to stream.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. Wait, hold on. Since we're right here.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh man, where is it? Here you go. So back in 1995, in the start of the streaming industry, when nobody knew what streaming was, right?
Yeah.
Todd Wagner and I went to a local radio station, KLIF in Dallas. And we said, you know what? There's this internet thing that's going to be just like cable, made probably bigger, right? Just like cable changed to business, we're going to destroy cable someday. And so the way we started was we went to them and said, okay, we've got this Packard Bell 95 megahertz PC, and we're going to connect it. We're going to use that as an encoder. But what we have to do first is we're going to take an 8-hour VCR using these exact
There they are.
These exact tapes, right? August 10th. KLIF.
And so those are air checks from Cliff that you stuck through the encoder.
Exactly right. So we'd had an 8-hour VCR at their board. We would record it. We would take the VHS tapes, take them back, encode them, put them on our server. People would have to download TCP/IP clients and whatever streaming client we were putting together. It changed a couple times at the beginning, and then we started streaming, and it went from couple people to 100 a day to 1,000 a day to 10,000.
The rise was unbelievable. It was so fascinating to see AudioNet kick off the streaming era, which then became broadcast.com, which then got sold to Yahoo, which arguably then funded all the other things in your Wikipedia biography, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So I wanted to bring that up at the beginning just to make sure everyone gives you real cred from way back. Way back, yeah. So in the intervening years, you kind of become America's, avuncular business savvy uncle, and people call you in for everything from, what's the best recipe for chili to is there a cure for cancer? I'm going to focus here on things that I know are so core to what you are all about as an entrepreneur and an investor. Give me the big picture right now. If I'm sitting down having lunch with Mark Cuban, and I say, what do you think's going on in this economy? What are you saying across the lunch or dinner table?
Who knows? I mean, right now, all the things that are going on is complete uncertainty, and that's good and bad, right? It's bad for the obvious reasons. A lot of people are out of work. Companies are going belly up. Hopefully the payroll protection plan, which if you're an entrepreneur or small business, please call your bank and ask for that right now. If you have under 500 employees, call your local bank. The government basically will loan you money for your payroll of anybody under $100,000 for 3 months. And if you keep everybody and don't fire anybody, you don't have to pay it back. So that's one thing. But, right now on the investment side of what I'm looking for, people with a vision on what we're going to look like on the other side, not when, but what, right? Because, what type of, because whenever it's FUBAR like this, we'll look back in 5-10 years and there'll be 5, 10, 20 amazing companies that changed the world that got started because of this. And that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Any ideas what getting through this looks like? Any metrics in your mind? Because it'll play out in phases of 12 months from now and 10 years from now and everything in the middle. Any particular green lights you're looking for that say, okay, we're largely coming back?
I don't know yet, right? I mean, to me, it's just about agility right now. It's about staying on top of things, doing as best you can to keep your employees employed, because the one thing you don't want to be in a position of, if it's like a V or even a W and there's an accelerated return and business comes back quickly, you don't want to be caught having to chase down employees and find them and retrain them and try to play catch up. So as painful as it may be, whether you can afford it as an entrepreneur or you're using the payroll protection program, if you can keep your employees, that's good for your company, good for the country. What happens next? You've got to know your business better than anybody. And you kind of have to game plan it out where you say, okay, here's the different alternatives that I see, and here's the probabilities I assign to them, and let's see where it goes.
It's interesting. You're talking about two things that have to go together. One is agility. The other one is stability by keeping your workforce in place, because once they scatter, huge amount of effort to get that back.
That's exactly right.
All right. Let's talk about more specifically here companies that are working on trying to solve this gap of personal protective equipment, trying to jump in there and say, we can build ventilators, masks, and what have you. There's been a bunch of hits and misses.
We're dealing with imperfect information. And when you do that, you make imperfect decisions. We're not in a ready, aim, fire mode. We're in a ready, fire, aim mode. And so I'm not going to say so-and-so should have done anything, but here's where we are, right? I just posted an article on Twitter about a German company that makes the majority of the world's ventilators. And, the TDLR it doesn't look good because it's not something you just turn on. It's not like making one more widget. If you just add one piece of equipment, you can build another 100,000 units. And so it's really going to have to be a capacity management issue where we look to see where all the hotspots are for the virus and where the most hospitalizations are. Get them whatever we have on a just-in-time basis. And the minute they start to recover, you move it to the next hotspot. Because of the uncertainty, everybody tries to overbuy in inventory and warehouse. And that's the worst thing that can happen in a limited capacity environment. And in parallel to that, hopefully we'll be able to pick up some new units that are being manufactured, whether they're traditionally made as they always have been, whether they're smaller units that have a little bit less functionality, or whether they're kind of, kludge things that are being done. But my understanding also is that these aren't the types of things where you just plug and play. It requires a serious amount of medical knowledge in order to make them work. The masks are a completely different issue because it's become such a black market that everybody's tried to play, starting with 3M, right? I give them credit for manufacturing as many as they can and jacking up their production. They get a lot of credit for that. But their silence has been deafening. We're in a situation where people are dying and getting ill because frontline healthcare providers, the heroes of all this, don't have masks, simple surgical masks. They're happy to tell you they're increasing production. They're happy to tell you that they want the best for healthcare providers, yet they don't come out and talk about the supply chain at all. They don't come out and say, you know what, we are redirecting production from Singapore or Korea or other manufacturing plants to the United States, so we have plenty here. They're not saying, you know what, we're going to work with Honeywell. We're going to work with other manufacturers of these products so that we can do the same thing, just-in-time inventory. And as a result, this lack of information, you're seeing all kinds of black market 3M masks that we don't know where they come from, whether it's United States distributors selling them out the side door, whether it's global distributors. But that lack of information has just added to the fear and added to the hoarding. But the feds can come here and make this market efficient with good information, and that's what we need to happen today.
As we talk about this idea of communications, let's turn it inward now. What are great leaders saying right now to keep the team moving forward?
That our employees and our stakeholders are first, shareholders are last.
You said often that shareholders should get paid last in a recovery. Kind of surprising to hear from a guy who's an investor.
Yeah, this is a once in a lifetime. The old rules are gone. We need to keep the country together. We need to keep ourselves out of the depression. We have so many people doing so many great things for each other. People making masks just to try to help out hospitals. American people are really stepping up. But in terms of leadership within your own company, whether you're 5 employees or 50,000 or 500,000, you need to communicate. The CEOs of the big companies should be having at least weekly, if not daily webcasts saying, here's the state of our business. Here's where we plan, what we plan on doing. And here's why. Here's some of you, you know what, there's some risk. You're going to lose your jobs. Or some of you, we may ask to take a 20% pay cut because we can't afford it otherwise. Or hopefully there's other companies like Bank of America who said, with our 200,000 employees, we can afford to keep on paying you. Even if you're the janitor staying home because the building is closed, we're going to keep on paying you. But at least that janitor or, that programmer, that engineer, they all know what their status is. They all know whether or not they can, put food on the table for their families. And that's what communications does. And that's why it's the most important element for CEOs.
The Journal had an interesting story today. They put an interesting piece of phrasing around this. They said it's the first time in the American economy's history when we've put this economy into essentially a medically induced coma and then need to bring it out. Just like in medicine, when they put you in a medically induced coma, they have to bring you out very carefully and specifically. There's a real protocol so it doesn't go wrong. But we've never done this before, so there is no protocol. But what you're talking about, it sounds to me like is a big piece of it, which is keep the employees connected to the organization by hook or by crook. That's one part of that protocol.
Yeah, because you want continuity as best you can get it.
Yeah.
You know, you want people to know, because one of the biggest challenges one of the biggest stress inducers for everybody, what you do with your employees in particular is going to define who you are as a brand. How you treat your employees, how you treat your stakeholders, you are making a statement that's going to be associated with your brand and will define how consumers deal with you for decades.
Yeah, let's turn to this this area of sports and event entertainment. You own the Mavs, and until very recently, you were founder and majority shareholder of Access TV, which came out of CNET. So you've got all kinds of interesting lenses on particularly sports and event entertainment. This has been a massive shutdown. How do you see it coming back?
Well, you know, the good news is Americans need sports, you know, and in this particular situation, we really need them. And when I say that, obviously there's people who don't watch or care about sports, but you know, we still, when Google has the best quarter that they've ever had, nobody throws a parade. When the Dallas Mavericks won, you know, you see this guy, when we won the championship,
yeah,
hundreds of thousands of people lined the streets. When we were making our run, the entire city was on fire. When the Warriors were winning, the entire city's on fire. People, even if you're not a big sports fan, you glom together with your neighbors because it's so exciting.
Yeah, it becomes part of what's going on in a given metro when there's something great going on with one of our teams. It's kind of one of the last things we do collectively anymore is get behind sport.
Exactly. And we need that. We need something to get excited about. We need something to cheer for. You know, particularly with the Olympics being suspended till next year, I think the NBA in particular, we have a very specific role. Now, I don't know when we're coming back. I hope it's before June, but that's me guessing. And, you know, it's hopefully we'll play without fans, and just so we'll be able to put it on TV, because viewing habits and media consumption habits are changing dramatically. Now, whether that'll be sustainable, I'm not sure. But just look at Shark Tank Friday nights on ABC. Our ratings have gone up significantly. We're setting multi-year highs in viewers and in the demos. So I think, you know, as it relates to sports, as it relates to the NBA, I think as soon as we can safely do it, I think going on television, the response is going to be incredible.
Something else I want to ask you about, Mark. Millions of college students have had their educational path recently disrupted, at least for the time being, probably to the end of this term until we get to next academic year. One of the best things I've ever heard you say to young college grads or students is don't follow your passion, follow your effort. Now that they have a lot of time to think on these things, expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? We all have passions. You know, I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to be a baseball player. I thought I could play the guitar and piano and teach myself. And, you know, that didn't quite turn out the way I expected. But as I spent more and more time on things, I realized I spent time on the things I was good at, you know, and the more time I spent on it, the better at it that I got. And when I realized that, it was like, okay, well, you know, my first company, I taught myself how to code. Initially, it was, all right, I'm going to do this just because I have to try to get by and I need to make the sale. And then it was like, wait, I'm doing this more often. And wait, people like what I'm doing. Maybe I'm pretty good. Let me try to get better and really expand my business. And I never really thought I'd ever write any code at all. And I ended up doing it for 7 years. And so I think people coming out of school have to learn a couple of things. One, you don't need the perfect job. You just spent 4 years, or I guess now almost 4 years, paying to learn. Now go out there and find a job where you get paid to learn, right? Doesn't have to be the perfect job, because you'll learn just as much from the jobs you hate as the jobs you love. What you'll find out is that there's things that you're trying that you may be very good at. And that's the key to being successful in this day and age. Try as many things as you can. Find the one thing that you may be good at, no matter how many different things you try. And then look to see where you're spending your time, you know, and chances are you're going to spend your time on things you're good at. People tend not to quit things that they're good at.
I mean, I think it's an almost magical piece of advice to help people really find where their talents lie. It's so easy for someone in college or recently have graduated to follow that meme-like advice to follow your passion, man. But like you've often said, if you'd just done that, you'd probably be a third-rate basketball player in the Lithuanian League right now, right? Hey, Mark, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. It's nice to talk to you again. And keep sniffing around the front edge of this economy for us and let us know what you see.
Thank you, Brian. Take care, buddy.
You too. Bye.